My name is Dr. Meghan Barrett. I am an integrative veterinarian. I've helped many clients take better care of their animals, and I do this through a blend of modalities, including acupuncture, nutrition and food therapy consultations, physical rehabilitation, Western and Chinese herbals, and that sums about just integrative medicine in general. So here are the topics we're going to cover. We're going to go through an overview, some common GI symptoms and GI diseases, gut healing superfoods and herbs, and then some product examples to give you guys some context for what you might be seeing as you're shopping for products for your pets and implementing these tips in the real world. So GI diseases can be very miserable for pets and frustrating for pet parents. Just like humans, pets are very susceptible to these conditions, and in certain breeds, the risk of them can be even higher. And unfortunately, many GI diseases can be tough to diagnose and treat. And this can leave you as the pet parent feeling very helpless and lost. However, many conditions can be treated with herbal therapy and therapeutic nutrition. Using herbs to manage symptoms can be an effective and safe way to treat their discomfort. However, it's very important to note that some herbs can interact with medication, and it's crucial to consult with a vet before administering any herb as a treatment for a GI disease. And this is because there is no one-size-fits-all recommendation, because it really depends on what's wrong. There are many, many causes for indigestion, and if your dog is suffering from long-term symptoms like indigestion, diarrhea, or vomiting, you want to have them checked by your vet as soon as possible. It's very important to work with your vet closely to identify a diagnosis, whether that's Western or a TCM or traditional Chinese medicine approach. And keeping careful records of symptoms is crucial as a pet parent to provide your doctor with the insights that they need to figure out what's going on. So a Western GI workup might include some laboratory testing, imaging, or biopsies. A TCVM workup might include a detailed interview about your animal's history, personality, constitution, environment, diet, and also feeling the pulse and looking at the tongue, along with the rest of their physical exam. With this information, they might prescribe a custom herbal blend of Western and or Chinese herbs that will fit your pet's need best. An integrative consult would probably include some blend of the two. So let's talk about the relationship of the body with the gut. The GI tract really does start in the mouth. This is the first line of defense. And there's a whole oral microbiome that's living there to help with that. But if you let your pet's dental health go and you don't stay on top of it, then that can be a source of systemic inflammation that can go awry and involve the GI tract in general. So it's very important to make sure that your pet's dental health is on point. Then when we come to diet and pharmaceuticals, we know that there are many things in some of the commercial diets that are not so good for our pets. And these are things like preservatives, synthetic additives, dyes, and things like that, fillers. And so giving those types of foods and also excessive pharmaceuticals can be harmful to the gut and stress the gut over time, causing inflammation, which can be damaging and lead to other problems. The water that our pets drink is very important to be pure, filtered, and to make sure that you're cleaning their water bowls often. There is a lot of chemicals in water, unfortunately, sometimes chlorine and fluoride. And also we have to consider that our pets are low to the ground. So when we take our dogs for a walk, they're in contact with everything on the ground. It's getting all over their bodies. They're licking themselves and ingesting those things. So we do have to be cognizant of the fact that they are in contact with a lot of toxic substances and their little bodies are having to detox constantly. So we want to support them in that process. And then we are looking at our gut lining and microbiome, which is basically what's called the epithelium within the gut. That's the internal layer that is the barrier between the food and the lymphatics, which are just beyond the microvilli, which make up the epithelium. And of course, the microbiome is an important component too, because that's interacting with our food and our neurotransmitters and all of those things. So I just wanted to mention the term leaky gut because it is kind of a hot topic in the medical community. It's not totally agreed upon, and It's not totally accepted that this is a formal diagnosis, but the theory behind it is that the epithelium lining of the gut can get damaged, and these gut holes can allow for access for chemicals or allergenic substances to get into those lymphatic vessels. So if we're trying to deal with a leaky gut type situation, things that can be helpful in dealing with that would include a diet without chemicals and preservatives, whole food diets, minimizing prescription medications, using products like Gut Ion to help rebuild the epithelial bonds, possibly using digestive enzymes to break down food, microbiome transfers, which are also called fecal transplants, probiotics, and then our topic of today's discussion, herbs and superfoods. So I wanted to just go over common GI symptoms so that everyone is on the same page. And if your pet suffers from any of these symptoms, please have them examined by a veterinarian so that you can start to get to the bottom of what's going on with them. So these can include anorexia, which means a decreased appetite or no appetite, vomiting or regurgitation. These are different things. Vomiting is an active process where they're retching to bring up food. Regurgitation is passive, and that's where your pet might eat and then just food comes out of their mouth and you don't know where it came from. There was no signs of vomiting. That's regurgitation, which is different and can be an important clue to tell your vet about. Diarrhea, that obviously is soft stool. It can range from being watery to just soft. Unintentional weight loss or weight gain. Abdominal pain, licking the air, irritability, lethargy, dehydration. You might notice this if you feel your dog's gums and they feel kind of dry or tacky instead of moist. Nausea, drooling, straining to defecate. This is another one that you have to be cautious about because straining to urinate can look very similar to straining to defecate. So just be sure you know you've looked closely at what your pet is struggling with. And then, of course, blood in the stool. These are many things that we'll see and have to try to figure out what's going on. And the tricky thing is that there are many GI diseases that can be causing these symptoms. So when someone's pet has diarrhea, there's many things that could be causing it. It's not always just a simple answer. So there are often categorized in terms of whether the GI disease is within the GI itself or if it's outside of the GI, as in different organ systems. Diseases that can be within the GI are typically either acute or chronic. These can include all of these things in the list here. Anything that ends in itis means inflammation of. So when we're talking about esophagitis, that's inflammation of the swallowing tube, the esophagus. Gastroenteritis is inflammation of the stomach or the intestines. Colitis is inflammation of the colon or the large intestine. Pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas. Dysbiosis, which is an imbalance in the microbiome population. A foreign body, which would be something that your dog may have eaten and swallowed and is now hanging out somewhere in the gut, potentially causing a blockage. Parasites, which are many types of different worms that can live inside the body and inside the GI tract. Constipation, which is where they're having a hard time passing stool. Acid reflux. IBD is inflammatory bowel disease. Cancers of the stomach, esophagus, small intestine, large intestine, and the digestive organs. Those can all fall under cancer. Megaesophagus is the dilation of the esophagus. This can be that one where if you see your pet regurgitate, where they bring up food and they didn't actually show any signs that they were going to vomit first, that's a clue that you may want to get them checked for a megaesophagus. Megacolon is where the colon gets stretched out because they've been constipated for so long that it can actually lead to problems with being able to pass stool normally in the future. So if you notice your pet is constipated, please don't let it go on for too long because it can lead to some permanent effects that can be difficult to treat. Then we have ulcerations, which are basically scrapes or scratches in the epithelium. And then there's food allergies, of course. And outside of the GI, there can be many seemingly unrelated conditions that can cause GI symptoms. These can include hepatopathies, which are liver diseases, gallbladder issues, renal disease, which is kidney disease, diabetes, cancer, endocrinopathies, which are hormonal disorders such as Cushing's, Addison's disease, hypothyroid, and things like that. Then there is dental disease, which we had touched on earlier, and of course, many others. So GI diseases are common in pets, unfortunately, and they can be caused by a range of factors. And while some pets may show more obvious symptoms right away, others may only exhibit behavioral changes. So this can make diagnosing and treating GI diseases complicated. And one helpful way to manage these diseases once you've gotten a diagnosis is through healing foods and herbal supplements. So an incorrect diet is definitely the most common reason I see that dogs are experiencing acute and chronic GI symptoms. And this can be due to the ingredients that are poor quality or harmful, like preservatives, fillers, mycotoxins, synthetic supplements, dyes, all of these things. And of course, you have to consider that a good quality diet that works well for one dog might not work well for another if they are sensitive to certain ingredients. Continued feeding of heavily processed and concentrated commercial food products over time may contribute to the development of health problems. So here we're talking about those lower quality canned food and kibble products that is very common for a lot of people to be feeding. And when we're feeding these foods that are poor quality, the digestive organs of the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas have to work extra hard to overcome this imbalance, and they become stressed and eventually begin to break down. So for dogs who are experiencing digestive problems, please be sure to avoid dry food, doggy biscuits, rawhide chews, chicken jerky, and other dehydrated meat products because they can contribute and prolong these types of issues. And if you are feeding a commercial diet, it's okay, but you do want to scrutinize the ingredients and sourcing. And if that means you have to call up the brand of food that you're feeding your dog, it's okay. You can call them and ask any questions you want. They should be able to provide you with good quality information if they're a reputable company. And if you're home cooking, be sure to use recipes that have been reviewed by a veterinarian or formulated by a veterinarian. I did want to mention just a different perspective on this topic, which is the TCVM view of GI issues. And of course, this is a very simplified explanation of it. But in general, a GI issue in TCVM might be referred to as a middle burner disorder. And this can be a result from stagnant energy or qi in some of the organs like the liver and intestines, or maybe a deficiency in function with the stomach and pancreas. And this can lead to things like excess heat and inflammation, or even sometimes excess cold. And so basically, Chinese medicine is all about finding balance within the body. And so it's very important for a harmonious interaction to be present between the spleen, stomach, and liver so that GI function can be healthy. When those interactions are disrupted, then you might have a middle burner disorder. And of course, we all are starting to learn about the microbiome now. I think there's still a lot more to be discovered and learned, but we do know that things that do support the microbiome are a whole unprocessed food diet, making sure that you're not feeding food that causes a food allergy or an intolerance. If you can identify those triggers, then be sure to avoid them. If you can identify that there are infections or overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria through tests with your veterinarian, you'd want to treat those. Maybe healing the gut lining with some of these herbs and foods that we're going to discuss. And then avoiding toxins, once again, typically through a healthy diet, and also being aware of the environmental exposures that your pet is getting through, the physical environment they're in, the food, the water that they're taking in. I did want to throw in a little plug here about the book that I wrote. I wrote my book From Basic to Bougie because I had the same conversation with clients over and over about how to upgrade their pet's diet. And I know that people are starting from many different points. And so the book basically encompasses wherever you're at with your pet's diet. It's just a helpful guide to try to get you to learn how to do a better job so that your pet can feel better and you can feel great about what you're doing. There's a lot of great tips in there. So it is available through my website and Amazon. And please check it out if you have questions about your pet's diet. It has a lot of helpful information. Okay, so here are some of my favorite gut healing superfoods. Number 1, bone broth. This is full of amino acids, collagen, gelatin, glutamine, glycine, and trace minerals. It is easily digested and soothing to the digestive system. So if your pet is having some type of stomach issue, especially all of a sudden, they go off of their food, maybe they need to not eat for a day or two, and you can provide them with bone broth so that they stay hydrated and keep electrolytes in their body. A lot of pets will be able to, be syringed some bone broth while they're feeling sick. So just keep that one on hand because it is very helpful. Number 2, mushrooms. There are many medicinal species such as shiitake, chaga, lion's mane, turkey tail, and reishi, which are packed with prebiotics and antioxidants. So mushrooms are really helpful, especially in treating chronic GI diseases. If you have some type of cancer or inflammatory bowel, a lot of times we'll rely on mushrooms for a supportive treatment to utilize all of the therapeutic properties that they provide. Number 3, tripe. Tripe, if you didn't know this, it is a ruminant stomach, typically from a cow. And because it's from their stomach, which is their fermentation vat, it's packed with probiotics, but also proteins and enzymes, natural vitamins and minerals, and healthy fats. So tripe is a great ingredient for either your pet's diet or for snacks. Number 4, rice. So brown rice is rich in fiber, minerals, and vitamins. And white rice is easy to digest, and pets may be willing to eat it even when their stomach's upset. I think there's a reason why even in conventional medicine, the typical bland diet we recommend includes rice. And even for people, if you've ever had food poisoning or a major stomach problem, you know that rice is one of those foods that just feels safe to be one of the first things to reintroduce because it just is easily digestible, and it's not going to usually make your stomach feel worse. Squash, pumpkin, and sweet potato are another favorite, number 5. They are rich in phytonutrients, moisture, and fiber. They are easy to digest as well. But of course, they must be cooked, baked, or boiled first. And you can use canned or fresh pumpkin. Number 6, oats and barley. These prebiotic foods are rich in beta-glucan fiber, which helps to feed the good bacteria in the gut. But always be sure to only feed organic, non-GMO grains. Number 7, beef, chicken, and fish. These are some examples of clean proteins that are really essential in healing and maintaining the gut, as well as your overall health. Ideally, feed wild, sustainably caught fish, grass-fed beef, and free-range poultry. And of course, if your pet has an allergy to one of these, then I'm not recommending that. But if you are able to cook for them and they do well with these, they're very simple protein sources that are good for them. Number 8, dark leafy greens. These are rich in phytonutrients and antioxidants, which provide anti-inflammatory qualities. Be sure to chop, grind, or cook these before serving. And if your dog has a history of calcium oxalate bladder stones, then either avoid these or feed in moderation. Number 9, goat's milk. This contains proteins, fats, enzymes, probiotics, vitamins, and minerals. It can be fed raw or fermented. However, in certain states, such as Hawaii, where I live, raw goat's milk is illegal. So just a side note, it might be harder to find in some states. And if you do feed it, just be sure to start with small amounts at first to make sure that your pet is tolerating it. Okay, it does have a small amount of lactose in it. And now we're on to the gut healing herbs. So each one of these herbs we're going to go over could honestly have an entire lecture dedicated to it. But I did want to go over a lot of the most commonly used herbs, just so that you're starting to get familiar and learn about them. And you can start to understand what an herbalist might be reaching for in treating these in animals or people. So I wanted to organize them by action to highlight some of the ways that they do treat GI diseases. And so let's start with the antacids and anti-ulcers. These include lemon balm, chamomile, peppermint, licorice, angelica root, milk thistle, greater celandine, meadowsweet, turmeric, bilberry, comfrey, danshen, fenugreek, cordialis, gotu kola, and bacopa. So I'm sure you've heard of many of these before, and you will see as we go through these lists that there will be repeaters that come up over and over. And as we go through some of the products, you'll see that many of these are just used in all of the GI formulas. So just try to pay attention and see which ones tend to come up the most. For the anti-inflammatory herbs, there is boswellia, butterbur, chamomile, dong quai, skullcap, calendula, wild yam, licorice, meadowsweet, devil's claw, and golden seal. Our demulcent herbs are ones that we use to lubricate and protect the GI lining. These include marshmallow, slippery elm, licorice, bladderwrack, comfrey, and fenugreek. Our spasmolytics are helping with reducing intestinal cramping. These include chamomile, lavender, thyme, peppermint, lemon balm, ginger, licorice, rosemary, cinnamon, and catnip. And the antiemetics will help to treat nausea and to prevent vomiting. These include ginger, gentian, golden seal, peppermint, licorice, lavender, catnip, chamomile, and wild yam. Some of my favorite herbs are included here. So number one, let's talk about slippery elm. This is an herb that has been proven to be effective at combating many types of GI diseases. It is rich in mucilaginous fibers that help to soothe the inflamed digestive tract and the epithelium. This can be given to dogs orally as a tea or as a powder mixed with food. And I think it's a pretty safe one to just have around the house, where if your dog starts to have a little bit of a random upset stomach, going off food, a little vomit or diarrhea, this is a pretty safe one to just start adding in to see if it can help to soothe the stomach and get them through it. However, of course, if they do seem like they're sick and things are continuing, then take them to the vet to get an evaluation. Number two, ginger. This is another powerful herb that can effectively treat GI diseases in pets and people. Most people probably know about using ginger for nausea. It also helps to improve digestion, speed up the passage of food through the intestines, and can calm inflammation. And it can be administered orally as a tea or mixed into the food. Number three, peppermint. This is another effective herb that can treat GI diseases and discomfort. It is known to relax the muscles in the GI tract, reduce nausea, and alleviate GI cramps. Peppermint is also commonly administered as an oral tea, and it can also be found in many digestive supplements. Chamomile, number four. This is another amazing herb that can be used to alleviate GI discomfort and treat digestive issues. It has remarkable calming and soothing properties and can also act as a mild sedative for pets that are anxious because of digestive issues. And we know that it goes both ways, where anxiety can cause stomach issues and stomach issues can cause anxiety. So chamomile is a very helpful, gentle herb. You can give chamomile tea orally or add dried chamomile to your pet's food. Number five, marshmallow. This has historically been used for health problems related to the mucous membranes, especially the inner linings of the digestive, respiratory, and urinary tracts. It contains mucilage, which is a gelatinous material that can help to soothe and protect the irritated or inflamed tissue. And of course, this is different than what most people think of marshmallow, which is the sugary candy and has zero actual marshmallow in it. But this is where that term came from. Number six, licorice. The anti-inflammatory and soothing effects can also help to protect the gut's mucous lining and heal leaky gut. So licorice root can relieve digestive problems like acid reflux or indigestion. It's actually commonly used in human integrated practice, the DGL licorice for acid reflux, instead of the proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole, which you're really not supposed to use those for more than 2 weeks, but commonly you will get put on those long term and people's bodies actually get addicted to them. Just as an interesting side note. So this is one herb that you definitely want to be sure to check with your vet, because it can have some interactions and side effects. So just make sure that it's safe for your dog and have them clarify whether you should be using whole licorice root or the DGL licorice that I mentioned before, because they do have different actions and different uses. Number seven, milk thistle and dandelion. These amazing herbs will help to support the liver function, including detoxification and excretion of waste byproducts, supporting the normal bile flow during digestion, which helps with the breakdown and assimilation of foods. And they also provide a prebiotic called inulin that helps to maintain healthy gut flora. So we just don't want to get blindsided and forget all about the liver when we're talking about the gut, because the liver is an important part of that digestive system. And of course, we should mention some Chinese formulas. This is a different approach than some of the ones that we just mentioned because they're used in a way where they're prescribed with a pattern diagnosis rather than a Western diagnosis. So we were just talking about some of those herbs and how they're useful for, the way that we would describe a diagnosis in Western medicine. These herbal formulas can only be used when you have a Chinese medicine diagnosis. So some examples are listed here. For a spleen Qi deficiency, which is another way of explaining a diarrhea problem or a digestive problem, you might use the herb blend called Four Gentlemen. For a stomach spleen yin deficiency, you might use stomach happy. For damp heat, you might use Longdan Zhegan. For damp cold, you might use Wei San. And for food stasis, you might use Happy Earth. So I just wanted to bring up this different perspective, and a lot of holistic vets do use Chinese herbals. So just to get you familiar with the fact that it is sometimes an unfamiliar approach for a lot of Westerners, but they can be very effective. And you do just want to be sure to track your dog's progress when they're on them and check in with your vet often, because sometimes as things improve, you might change up the herbal formula. So I also wanted to show you guys some product examples because I know how people are nowadays with their pets. A lot of times you're doing some online learning and then experimenting and shopping online. So I just wanted to show some of the products that I sometimes recommend to clients and explain and show the relevance of what we've been talking about in many of these commonly used products so that you can be familiar if you're also shopping around for your pet. So this one is going back to our healing foods section, and it is a really awesome fermented green supplement from Gussie's Gut that has many awesome ingredients listed here that are healthy superfoods. And these are just a good way to get some of these healthy foods into your dog's diet. Even if you are feeding them a more commercial diet, you can add this and it will give them a boost of many of these things that can be good for the GI system. So these products from Animal Essentials, if you look at the ingredient lists for daily digestion, that includes peppermint, ginger root, fennel seed, and chamomile. And I know we talked about 3 of those earlier. The Healthy Gut formula contains chicory root, marshmallow root, fennel seed, and yucca root, which we had talked about marshmallow earlier. And of course, there's too many herbs to talk about in this one lecture. So you're also getting to get exposed to some of the other ones too. This one, called Colon Rescue, contains marshmallow, licorice root, slippery elm, and plantain leaf. These are products that just contain slippery elm, so you can use them as a single herbal remedy as well, instead of a formula with multiple herbs. These are some other helpful supplements that I've used. The one from 4-Leaf Rover called Gut Guard is great. It has licorice root, marshmallow root, aloe vera, slippery elm, dandelion root, burdock, ginger, chamomile, and L-glutamine. And as a side note, L-glutamine is another very helpful component in some of these gut healing formulas because it's an amino acid that can help to basically modulate some of the inflammation that's happening in some of the inflammatory diseases. So be looking for L-glutamine as well in some of these products. This one from The Honest Kitchen contains papaya leaf, plantain leaf, slippery elm again, pumpkin seed, papain, pectin, and fennel. The one on the left from Doggy Biome is a prebiotic, postbiotic chews. And in addition to digestive enzymes, they contain ginger. So that's another example of where you might see an herbal added into a product. The one from Paxaid has several of our favorite herbs we mentioned, including chamomile, echinacea, golden seal, peppermint, hibiscus, and spearmint. The product on the left from Dr. Harvey's is one of those that's a really good one to just have around in case your dog has an occasional diarrhea episode. It has pumpkin, bentonite clay, slippery elm, apple pectin, ginger, plantain, marshmallow, fennel, banana, and chamomile. I think that's a really great formula. This one on the right from Adored Beast is called Gut Soothe, and it has probiotics, slippery elm, DGL licorice, glucosamine, L-glutamine, we mentioned that one before, marshmallow root, and aloe vera. Another really powerful formula. And then, of course, we circle back to the liver. Sometimes pets with digestive issues need some additional liver support. And this is a really awesome formula that has milk thistle and dandelion, in addition to other things like glutathione and B vitamins, vitamin C, and probiotics to help support your pet's GI tract. So I just want to give an invitation to schedule a consultation with me for anyone watching. If your dog is having GI issues or you want help upgrading your pet's diet from kind of a fast food diet to a more healthy fresh food diet, or you just want to address different issues your pet is facing, like pain or illness, I'm happy to meet with you. I can give you custom advice for therapeutic nutrition and herbs and effective natural remedies, or any other advice you might need for issues that your pet is experiencing. And you can find me at drbarrettvet.com. I also have a lot of free downloads available. You can find these on my link in bio on my Instagram, Dr. Barrett Vet. There's lots of educational resources there that I like to provide for free because I want pet parents to be empowered and have all this information to take excellent care of their animals. And if you go ahead and subscribe to my email list, you can get a free PDF download with more info on this topic of gut healing superfoods and herbs. If you're listening to this lecture, I know you care about your dog, and I really thank you for the attention and care that you're giving to your animals. Thank you for doing such an awesome job and doing right by your pets. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out, and I hope to talk to you soon. Aloha.